With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Tonight, the top drivers from the Precision Racing League make their way to Italy. Try and battle out to how things could play out. To start off the second round of the season, it's Autodromo Nacional Monza, and it's the GT3 Fixed Series powered by VCO. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Prince. Alongside the booth for tonight's action is Ewan O'Leary with our producer Hugo Ruiz. Currently, these drivers getting ready for their second race of the campaign after what was a wild season starter at the Red Bull Ring last time, Ewan.
Yeah, it certainly was, and we're looking forward to what's going to be a pretty wild race here today as well at Monza. Not the most exciting circuit to drive on your own, I've got to be honest, but it is a very exciting circuit to race at indeed. These tight chicanes, long straights as well, help keep the field very, very close together indeed, and help keep the action very, very exciting indeed as well. So we're in for two good races.
Two good races on the docket tonight. Let's take a look at the schedule. As talked about, the Red Bull Ring was the last destination for our drivers, and this is the last race before the winter break, Ewan. 2 weeks off after tonight for the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely, and we don't normally get that in these seasons, to be fair, but it would be nice for these drivers to have that one before we head to some other really big circuits like Spa, Silverstone, Hungaroring, and so on. Not too many of those real small, difficult technical circuits to contend with this season, apart from Okayama right at the very end. That's going to be one to watch a little bit later on. An interesting place to have a championship finale coming up in late February.
To make things intriguing, absolutely, once we get to the month of February. But for now, these drivers coming off that first race of the season, looking to try and build off how some of the championship points fared out. Let's take a look at how things fared out to open up the season. Team Beef driver Michael Terrafino started off with a victory. Andrew Fellows, along with Dave Peterson, Michael Paraballo, along with Rob Campbell, the top 5 last time out. In our words, drivers amongst your top 10 started off by surviving what was an attrition-filled time for some.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I mean these championship standings pretty self-explanatory at this stage. Really, don't tell us too much about how the rest of this season is actually going to pan out, but more tells us about the last race. After this one, and especially after the Christmas break, we're going to start to get a much better idea as to how this fixed series season is going to turn out by the end.
And let's look at how the championship standings entering tonight look. As drivers get ready for qualifying, I'd like to take time to remind you that this series is powered by VCO, the virtual competition organization. Tonight's coverage also brought to you in part by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. The title is brought to you in part by RaceSpot Sim Racing. RaceSpot offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotSimRacing.com to get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceLab Apps helps you improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. The Butt Kicker includes products that bring incredible immersion and realism to every game. Every nuance, enjoy put yourself in the driver's seat. A new partner of the season, Mecha Sim Hardware, is a small company from Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for high-end pedals, sets, as well as handbrakes and sequential shifters, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Tonight's coverage also brought to you in part by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Let's take a quick look at the team standings after how things played out early on. We Race Esports and Team Beep amongst the top two, but don't forget about Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing, also doing well last time out. Those teams amongst some of your fastest drivers in final practice.
Yeah, certainly were. And we saw for We Race Esports, it's not all about winning when you're in the team's championship, of course. It was Angelo Veloz and also Rodrigo Morales, who were 2nd and 6th at the Red Bull Ring to take that top spot in the team's championship. So very interesting indeed. And even with Michael Tarafino winning the last time around at the Red Bull Ring, still 9 points off for Team Beef in the team standings. So it is all about consistency across the board. And we'll see more of that play out here at Monza as we get the all-important qualifying session underway.
Track position can be very critical indeed. 4 sole qualified laps, 10 minutes up on the board for these drivers to set their lap times. Most drivers currently in the midst of their first time around for a timed lap, if not on their warm-up laps currently. Matt Sheriff keeping an eye on that machine currently. Inside the top 10 the points out for the first race of the season for Vulture Motorsports North. Let's talk about the balance of performance expectations tonight, because there was a lot of discussion for the sprint race, where you don't want to do that for one, but two, some of the classes, or rather the manufacturers within the class, are seeing separations as much as nearly 2 seconds today.
Yeah, we certainly are. We've seen that the Ferrari is the fancied car around here. Don't forget that balance of performance is supposed to work its way out over a whole season, so it's not too difficult to say that the Ferrari is looking strongest around here by quite some distance. We've even got, for some reason, a Ford on the grid here today for this particular race. So we're looking forward to seeing that out there, or I certainly am anyway, out there on the circuit. But about 2 seconds down on the Ferrari is that Ford. Eric Kulaga is the driver of it, but was only 1.2 seconds off the top at practice, so who knows where he could get that today. But it's certainly all about the Ferrari here today, and drivers like Angelo Veloz here going to have to make good use of that here in this race. So is Dale Pedersen as well. Both of those drivers were on the podium at the Red Bull Ring, and will really need, at the very least, podiums in this race as well, with the strength of this Ferrari.
Along with vehicles currently around the racetrack, Baron Glover, interestingly enough, the first driver in qualifying for the time being, only driver of the 148. And as we drive around this racetrack, plenty of high-speed sections, plenty of chances for draft. How would you approach this race as a driver to try and win it?
I think first of all you've got to get through the first chicane, because we know how difficult it is to actually manage that. You've got to make sure you make your way through that first chicane without going off, without getting hit by someone, because that is difficult in itself. But second of all, you've just got to stay in the draft. You've got to stay up front in this kind of race right the whole way through, and then just kind of strike at the end. We're not going to see a pit stop here in the fixed series, unlike what we see in the sprint series, which will be a little bit different. But in the fixed series, it is very much a kind of race of staying at the front, really. And then waiting for the end, if indeed it stays together, which I'd imagine it would do. Looking at the times right now, it's really, really close, so it's going to be difficult for one singular driver to get away from the field.
Top of the board, Andrew Villos with a 1:48.944, about 5/100ths quicker than Baron Glover. Michael Kalaga getting up to the top 3 as well, one of the 4X machines. So I see taking a look at him dropping to the top 10's borders now. Looking to charge back up, gets up to 4th, just behind Michael Terrafino's time.
That's me. It is very, very close. The top 5 are separated by less than 1/10 of a second. I know this circuit doesn't really have many corners, so there's not that much chance to make a difference, but that is extremely, extremely close in this qualifying session.
Continue to look around with qualifying. It's worth mentioning the track temperatures today. A bit on the hotter side, 79 Fahrenheit, 81 track temp for today. So these drivers dealing with a little bit of hotter temperatures. It is early morning on March the 1st, 2023 at 9 a.m. So it's only going to get hotter as the night progresses for the race it's in of itself for the drivers.
I've got to say, I didn't know we could predict the future with weather in iRacing, to be honest, that far ahead, but it seems like we can. So that's all good. But yeah, it is only going to get warmer. And those kind of things, not expected to be too much of a problem, really, in a race like this. Might be something to talk about in the sprint race as a result of that pit stop. And we'll obviously get to that when we get to that race in about an hour's time. But yeah, the track temperature, not too much of a concern. And probably isn't too much of a surprise to these drivers either.
Lots of shuffling up at the top of the board, but Rodrigo Morales looking to shuffle his way forward from a 1:49.1 last time. Once the many drivers who are continuing to push forward for the qualifying run rather than the reset method this time. Morales gets a 1:50.1, 1 second slower than his previous best lap time, so no movement. Down to the final 2 minutes on the board. Andrew pulls off to the side. That is Venero getting up to the 8th position in his qualifying run. Matt Sheriff currently at the top of the board over Yerksoy. As we take a look at one of the Ferraris. Joel Villos, second in the points entering tonight after the start of the season. And that may be an off track right there. Yes, he has an incident point now.
Very close, and it is very easy to do at that corner, but he will be able to go around it just about in time to have one more go at this. Well, maybe not actually. He's rapidly running out of time, but might be going and pushing on anyway. He's very, very close to pole position, as you can see, and so he's just pushing on anyway. But it's good to be at least up there here for this race. But as you can see, that everybody in the top 16 there on the left-hand side of your screen covered by less than half a second. It's absolutely unbelievable, really. And so that makes it very, very difficult to stay up front and to get up front here in this qualifying session. It's not an easy circuit. Sorry, it is an easy circuit to pass here around Monza, but at the same time, you don't want to start on the back because it does increase your chances dramatically of getting caught up in an early incident.
Right, so currently 3rd in the session. About 45 seconds to complete his qualifying run. Be able to do so comfortably in the run through Curva Alboreto, also known as Parabolica, of course. That corner renamed most recently just a couple years ago. In honor of the driver Alboreto. Here it comes. Rexoy coming out to close up the qualifying run. Mauricio Million jumps in front of him, but not able to jump forward in his respective time as his qualifying comes to a close. A couple more drivers look to close out. Selden Hamilton, for example, in 21st, running out of time. He's on his 4th lap, not even going to get it.
My personal favourite driver out on the field. I know we're not allowed to be biased, but I am big. Eric Kulaga in the Ford. They're 25th for him, although not that far off pole, to be fair to him. It's a very, very close session indeed.
With that, the drivers now getting ready for tonight's action. Let's look at how they qualified for tonight's action. 35 minutes up on the board. and Matt Sheriff will lead them to the green flag for Vulture Motorsports North. Maurice Gomillion starts in second tonight, the difference between the pole for 100ths of a second. Check that 5. Rex Hoy starts in third with Andrew Venero in the fourth spot. Rob Campbell and Angelo Belows starts in 6th. Michael Terrafino starts in the 7th position tonight with Sully Siad in 8th. Baron Glover started off qualifying well. He dropped to 9th in the final moment. He'll start alongside Michael Kalonga. Rodrigo Morales, we kept an eye on his qualifying run. He only got to 11th though in the end. Jay Steffi starts in 12th. Ryan Chandler starts 13th alongside Felix Feliz. Then it's Steven Martinez coming into tonight with a 5-point penalty after a minor incident alongside Ryan Luna. Mark Files starts alongside Dale Pedersen in the 18th spot. Frank Johnson and Phil Amaro start in the top 20 with Selden Hamilton 21st. Aiden Irwin 22nd. One other driver picked up a points penalty in the opener, Alex Wright, 5-point deduction after last week. Walden tonight starts in 24th, coming off a strong Cup 1. Eric Kalonga in the Ford starts all the way back in the field, 25th. Jason Lotridge alongside him with Dino Vela in 27th. Lucio Vargas, a regular in PRL competition, 28th, with Colin McKenzie and Regan Chandler, the top 30. Robert Deloge starts in 31st tonight, very deep in the field for a driver with decent speed last time. Drew DeWeese starts in 32nd. Greg McElraney starts in 33rd in one of the Forge machines with Matt Dinsmore alongside. Barry Cochran and Roy Brown, the top 36. Brian Hoskins starts in 37th this evening with Greg Doucette in 38th. Patrick Calgio, 39th, and rounding out the top 40 is the Canadian Miguel Plord. Then it's Glenn Van Co should say, in 41st. Federico Carli, 42nd. The last two drivers to take times were Jordan Walker and Steve Bammer. Two drivers did not take times, Andre Benetti and Jad Khalid. Round out the 46 drivers in the field tonight. Dylan, your keys to victory for Monza tonight.
I think a huge one has to come right at the very start. Get through turn number 1 and 2 cleanly, because I'd be amazed if all of them do. It's very, very tight. Of course, it's famous for the lap 1 incidents, so you want to make it through there. Stay up with the leaders, stay in the draft, and then strike at the very end. That's the kind of way you've got to play at Monza. It's a little bit of a waiting game. With such a fast circuit slipstream, this field is going to stay close together, I'd imagine, for a very long time.
Those weather conditions staying stagnant from qualifying with partly cloudy skies. The wind currently facing from over the grandstands, coming to the right on the front straightaway. Glad to have you with us here on RaceSpotTV and VCO. The green flags waving are underway for the PRL GT3 Fixed Series powered by VCO. Matt Sheriff with a great start off to the race, looking to pull away from the rest of the pack. Gomillion cuts off for second. Rexoy goes around the outside regardless for the spot, 2x2 into the first corners. There are some incidents in the 20s, and it's a parking lot. Half the field coming to a stop. Regan Chandler having to turn it around. Everybody coming to a stall in the middle of the corner.
And this is exactly why you need to be at the front. You need to qualify at the front. You need to stay at the front, because that kind of thing can happen very, very easily. I'm sure we'll get a full replay in a little bit, but look at the top 10 or so, top 10 or 15. They are getting away almost as if nothing has happened behind them, completely unaware of the wreckage that has happened into the first corner behind them. They're getting away, and the rest, as you said, have had to come to a complete dead stop at the end of the first corner there. Some of them are more than 20 seconds down on the lead, and we're only a minute into the race.
Unreal start for some, but the race leaders stay single file as they make their way through the quick corner, off through Ascari for the first time today at full pace. Not sure if trying to pull away with the Rexoy. Two of the Vulture machines with a great start to this race. Gomillion for Forge holds on to what is Pack 1B. For the most part, things settling down from that opening spell. And Juvenero pushes up the racetrack, puts him up for grabs now for fourth. It was trying to get the run on him this time down to the flag stand. The first of 20 estimated laps in the books.
Vanara here's got the slipstream on the outside line, so might be all right. Might have the push as well from Campbell into turn one. Late on the brakes though from Veloz, and it's going to chop and change around. Vanara with the outside line, he's going to hold on. So surprisingly, and Veloz turns around.
A stack up again in 1 and 2. The second one. Terrafino, the points leader after the opener involved. Several of the Lunatic Moonlight speed machines also coming to a stop. Several machines getting involved in the incident. 7th place, Terrafino, all the way to the back he goes. Mellows all the way back to 24th from it.
Well, all of the top 3 now from the Red Bull Ring have been involved in incidents. We just seen Veloz and Terrafino, and Dale Pedersen is also right at the back right now, more than 45 seconds off the lead already in this race, way back in 45th position. So it's really been a bad start for all of the guys that got on the podium last time around. Rodrigo Morales also loses a couple of places there, but I've got a slowdown penalty through the De La Rogia.
More than that, he didn't get the slowdown done in time. He's got a black flag. Jordan Walker also picking up one for the same reason. That leads to the question, how difficult is it to try and get that flag waved in time when, well, chaos is raining around you and something's happened to vehicles? It's a parking lot now coming up towards Ascari.
Oh my goodness.
The bridge is locked. The whole track is blocked.
My goodness me. Oh, and that Porsche, no regard for anyone, but has made it through. Fair play to them. But this is just absolutely unbelievable, really. Everybody come to a complete standstill. And once again, the point stands. You need to be at the front at Monza. It's not impossible to overtake round here, like at some other circuits. But my goodness, do you want to avoid some of the incidents we've seen so far?
We're not even 4 minutes in, and just about a majority of your top 10 in points entering tonight from the opener. Well, this is why there is a 10-race season and a drop. A lot of drivers might be using the drop tonight with the bad luck. Matt Sheriff, not so much. Here's a look at how things started.
Well, Felix Feliz has got around on his own there, but there was also incident in the background involving the red BMW that was just getting turned back around once again. And that was kind of a separate thing, but you've got to brake so early when you're back here. The concertina effect is absolutely wild, and some of them have just not quite judged that one right. A few of them ending up in the wall. I think the amount of cars that actually made contact with each other on the wall actually looked worse than it actually was there. It was just the fact that everybody had to come to a near standstill.
Partly with that, things really separating out already. 8 drivers out. Morales already a 47-second stop to try and wave the black flag. Just got it cleared. And that's also in part allowed the top 2 to pull away. When you have teammates from the same organization, so to speak, how helpful is that, like we're seeing?
Oh yeah, we're seeing it's very helpful. These two are not going to fight at all, and they're going to make sure that this is a fight between themselves, and just themselves. Maurice Cormillon is just in the background there in the first of the Ferraris, but if those two Audis work together, then they're going to stand no chance. There's the contact with Angelo Veloz. Just seems to get turned around by that Lamborghini that was really overeager, and that is a poor rejoin there, taking somebody straight out.
There's suboptimal, and then there's that. That driver not going to be very happy, let's put it that way. But here's the one thing to keep in mind with these top 2. Able to run together lockstep might be able to help with your strategy. Maurice Goldmillion is starting to pick up the tempo too, so that's something to think about. Also picking up the tempo despite damage, Baron Glover. Glover has made several passes since demolishing his front end in the stack-ups. Michael Kalanga amongst those he zipped by just now.
Yeah, absolutely. Made a good move there, has Glover, but once again, like you said earlier on, I'm struggling to find anybody who finished inside the top 10 last race who is currently in the top 10 right now. I think Steven Martinez is the only one after finishing 7th last race. He's currently 10th. I'm pretty sure he's the only one. Oh, maybe we've got Jay Steffi there as well, but he's done 9th and 10th so far in this season. So none of the main contenders, certainly none of the top 5, have made their way into the top 10 here in this race so far. It's a real, well, quite a mystery. And quite amazing, really, as we look at this secondary blockage that we got.
Well, offset 3.
Oh!
And then up and over as they block the entire racetrack.
Goodness me.
I don't think we normally see 3 wide in that section. Are you stunned as much as I am on that?
It's difficult to go 3 wide there. There's no doubt about that. It can be done. It is wide enough, but it's just difficult to do it with the king that you've got on the back straight there. It really makes things a lot more complicated than going 3 wide just on a straight. So it was bound to happen, really, but you can't fault them for at least trying it. You know, it's early on in the race, but maybe you could fault it, although we didn't quite get a look from somebody who was arriving on the scene. Maybe some of the slowing down afterwards could have been a little bit better from a few, because there were some people piling into that one. But yeah, I mean, I don't really blame them for trying to go 3 wide. It's early on in the race and it can be done, but just wasn't done on that occasion.
Take a look at Mark File, one of the 4X Motorsports machines. I know the putting they're trying to make, a lot of their drivers have picked up 4X's in incident points tonight. There is an incident limit in this series, remember, of 13 incident points. A lot of drivers in position already trigger it. Here's the more stunning thing, because of the chaos, Eric Kalaga, who changed to a Ford from an Audi, mind you, from last week, he's in 11th from the chaos, already up 14 spots.
Absolutely. I mean, he scored 20 points in the first race, by the way. He scored 20 points in the Red Bull Ring with his 11th position finish, but decided, you know what, I don't want any of those 20 points. I want the Ford instead. And so he's taken the 20-point penalty, and he's picked this, I mean, relic of a car, I would describe it as, really. It should probably belong in a museum, but he's brought it out anyway, and he's knocking on the door of a top 10 with it right now. I've got to take my hat off to him, because it is fantastic to see. And the way he's picked his way through the chaos in these opening laps is absolutely commendable as well. Up 14 places so far.
Remember, drivers have 1 free car change they can make in terms of the manufacturer. A lot of drivers were expected to switch to the Ferrari, not as many seen tonight as some may have thought. But remember, if you take a second one, this was seen in the past, there is a points penalty if you switch the car again. And some drivers who took that risk of trying to take a penalty, they didn't make up the full ground they thought they would.
I would always make the argument that you should stick with what you chose at the start of the season, really, and just try and learn that car as best you can and perform as well as you can in that car, really, because especially by the halfway point of the season and afterwards, you've done so much driving in it anyway. You might as well just end out the season with it and try your best. As yeah, we've got the car off.
They tries to back up and get it going. Top 4 run, no more for the 079. On his own, too, he had a sizable gap for that spot before the spin.
Yeah, it's very, very spaced out up there in the top few places. Let's see how he did it through Lesmo 2. Oh, he just loses it midway through on the entry there. Part of the Audi, really, part of the challenge of driving the Audi. It's not particularly stable. You don't quite know what it's going to do each time when you tip it into a corner. And I'm afraid it's not turned out too well for him there. And so we've got everybody promoted up a place, including this battle now for what is 14th place.
13th, in fact, having a chance. Check that as high as 12th because of that spin. Vella currently holding on to the spot. Mackenzie with a little bit of back bumper damage. Not holding him back, though. Trying to the run. The Audis, as seen moments ago, dominating the top 10 on the tempo. Mackenzie getting the slipstream. Not able to get the preferred run, though, for 1 and 2 as they go through the Primo Variante. Already at the 23 minutes to go mark. Remember, drivers with the 40% fuel limit in this series expected to take a pit stop. This track could make that a bit intriguing in some of these cases, remember, because of, well, the big draft packs you're seeing.
Yeah, it's very, very, well, as you say, it's more like an oval race, really, I suppose, in some ways. Obviously a little bit more technically challenging than that, I suppose, in terms of actually driving the circuit. But yeah, it does bear some similarities. You do need to be careful in terms of when you come in, because as we're seeing with the top two versus Gomillion in third place right now, you do like to have somebody to help you along. But then again, a battle could turn like this, and you could start battling as these guys are doing for fifth place right now, and you're not going to gain any time, no matter how big your group is, if you're battling like this. So it really does depend on what the group's actually doing, as it looks like Regan Chandler might be able to make his way around the outside into Parabolica here of Baron Glover.
That's Ryan Chandler indeed in the Mercedes AMG. They both have orange cars. Chandler is believed related in that regard as they try and keep up with Michael Kolonka for the top 5. And you're right on the battling. You fight too hard, you'll have someone who breaks the toe from the rest of the field here. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really difficult to get them back as well, especially if you continue battling like this, but it doesn't show any signs of stopping anytime soon, because further back in this group, it's side by side between Vela and Mackenzie for 12th position right now. And it doesn't seem to be a winner between the two of them. These two, for the second lap in a row now, go side by side, and even more successfully. You'd expect Mackenzie to have the advantage now, though, with the inside line at Curva Grande. And Hamilton also up there as well, really close. Aiden Irvin on board with that Italian paint scheme machine. But scrapes a little bit of paint, gets the spot back. Mackenzie yet again tries to go for the crossover, and doesn't get the run he's looking for, though, to get side by side yet again. And this is almost a cork in the bottle effect yet again. They've lost touch to the pack they were trying to keep up with. A little bit of sliding behind them with the spin. That's Irvin, who we were just with.
Yeah, absolutely. Mackenzie's gone wide as well at Lesmo 2. The two of these corners looking very difficult, and just around goes the Lamborghini. Good avoidance there from Amaro, actually, in the 26 BMW to just skip out of the way of that one, because that could have easily ended up in a two-car incident. But thankfully Irvin has only dropped down to 16th position. Such is the spread of the field because of those opening laps.
Coming up to 20 minutes to go on the clock, estimated 11 to go when they get to the stripe for a majority of these drivers. Interestingly enough, majority of some of the drivers involved in the earlier incidents, Waldo Walden, Andre Benetti, and Jordan Walker, are all back in the race after 8+ minutes of repairs. They can get as high as 34th position after losing several laps, so drivers are coming back to the circuit. Speaking of trying to surge forward, Eric Kalonga able to hold on to Mark File, who had a penalty last time around to try and slow down for.
It is unbelievable, really, that 13 of the drivers that started this race have had a penalty 1 minute or longer in a race of this distance. It's quite unbelievable what we've seen here. Some of them back out there again. Well, Rodrigo Morales didn't quite have a pit stop longer than a minute, but it was still quite long. Yeah, as you say, if you get back out there, you could really gain some points, as Jordan Walker's trying to do out there at the minute in 38th position. Back out there again after nearly 9 minutes in the pit lane. And he's going to make up quite a lot of positions in these next few laps. And of course, all these points, very, very important for the championship that is going to get very close at the very end of this season, where every point is going to matter. Well,
the Vulture machine staying together, keep in mind. Baron Glover holding on to 7th with all the damage. Ryan Chandler has ditched them. Steven Martinez trying to also get close to them for ascend possibly as well. And we'll say Vulture Motorsports, North and South, really strong days for them after being very quiet at the Red Bull Ring. Yeah, a number of good performances after, or certainly compared to the Red Bull Ring ones. Uri Rexoy is an example of that. 14th at the Red Bull Ring, or 15th even. But up there inside the top two now. Just waiting to see how these two are going to play it, really, in this race. They've got a long way to go.
But when is the agreement going to stop here? They've got 5 seconds over the field now, and even more till they lose a podium. So when are they going to stop being so nice to each other and begin this fight? I'd imagine it'll be in the last 10 minutes, but it'll be interesting to see when it does happen.
Aaron Glover up for grabs for another spot with the damage. This time from Steffi. Better run coming out of the corner, though. Glover able to get a squeeze down. Here comes Steven Martinez up to the right side of the racetrack. Just made it look easy.
Yeah, just inside line at the Curva Grande. And it will give you that very, very easily indeed. And not a lot that Steffi could really do about that one. Steven Martinez, one of those 3 drivers who has finished it, or is currently inside the top 10 after finishing in the top 10 at the end of the last race. So one of those few drivers that's been able to do that. Because not many have really, but made it look easy there. The Ferrari's starting to show themselves really, although it is an Audi 1-2.
Ferraris expect to be quick. Remember, it was a talking point, Ewan, with the update that came into play. The straight line speed for the Ferraris massively quicker than some of the cars, up to 5 miles an hour at the Red Bull Ring. But the corner speed was the major concern.
I mean, we always have these kind of discussion points after the updates, the BOP adjustments at the end of each season, or the start of each season, I should say. As this lap car about to get really in the way, quite possibly. In the end, gets out the way in time as Barrett Glover holds on from Martinez. Going to negotiate that little bit of lap traffic and going to use some of that straight line speed, although dive straight into the pit lane. And now the race really will start to change.
Some of these drivers coming in a little bit earlier than the projected windows from last week. These drivers coming in for their money stops. Interurban, who pit last time, had about a 15 second pit stop. We'll see how long some of these stops end up being, going a little bit further for your race leaders. There's the time, 14 seconds. So now, when does the shoe drop for these two?
Yeah, very long stops. But we even saw a car up on the jacks there. I think that was Selden Hamilton up on the jacks there. Slightly longer stop, but we heard this pre-race. Is there going to be chance to maybe change 2 tyres? It's not a particularly advantageous circuit for that because there's not really very many corners, but maybe for the future, the fact that you can change fuel and tyres at the same time in the GT3s now in iRacing does change things quite a lot. And so, can they get a couple of tyres on board while they're putting in the fuel that they need for this race? It's a little bit possible now, although maybe not that useful.
There was the thought process potentially in the 2 tires discussed with some of the drivers, more so from the sprint side of the car tonight. See if anyone in this fixed race elects to try and go up on the jacks quickly. Remember when drivers went on the jacks the last time, they were not able to make up the time. Here come the pit stops. Rexoy keeps it conservative on the entry. Matt Sheriff up to the speed limit. Go Million went a little bit aggressive on his entry, made it to the speed limit, however, as up and away they go for the pit stops. 2 drivers did pick up speeding penalties on their entries. Lucio Vargas, Frank Johnson currently serving penalties. Johnson more so recently.
Very important race off pit lane coming up here between Sheriff and Urexoy. We'll see who's got the quicker time. It looks like it is going to be pretty identical. Oh no, not even that. Sheriff's going to have a quicker pit stop and going to get a lap car between himself and Urexoy. That could be an advantage that he might well take with him to the line if he can just stretch this out just enough, although he has just been overtaken there by a lap car himself, so might be halted by that. We'll see if this gap will really open out properly, or whether Urexoy can get back into the slipstream.
Benetti giving the blue flags quickly. Roy zips on by. Frank Johnson now the buffer car in the midst of all this. Of note, Baron Glover, black flag right before the pit stop. Glover also having to serve time in the pit lane.
That was not good for your Exoit into the Della Roggia there. The lap car in front going off, and well, not going off, but going wide, and now you can see he's lost 1.5 seconds as a result, as Brian Glover gets back going again after his pit stop. That was 54 seconds for him, though, very long.
Well, if you have a speeding penalty, it's about a 40-second stop and hold on the iRacing service, remember. So, everyone has completed their service, mandatory pit stops for the race. Look at some of the battling around the racetrack, meanwhile, in the midst of some of the choo-choo trains. Arrow trying to hold on to a spot. Ryan Chandler looking to get up to a race-high 4th.
Could well do it here. This group has very much broken apart as a result of the pit stops, making Ryan Chandler's job here a little bit easier. But Arrow just up in front. But the important bit is that he hasn't really got pressure behind from the likes of Kalaga and Steffi that he had before. Can now get away and concentrate on making this move on his own in the Mercedes.
Janor done really well to get himself up to this position, keep in mind, starting up in the 13th position tonight, just in front of where the chaos reigned on the opening lap, remember. This seems to be not close enough to be able to try and slipstream by with some of these corners. That's going to be the major thing.
Just no way through at the minute down there into turn 1. Chandler having to wait a little bit longer, and that's going to be the pattern of the race for these final 12 minutes. These are the battles that are settled now. This is what we're going to see to the end. It's just a case of fighting those battles out now, but just a shame to see that is the last one remaining inside the top 5. It looks like Schreff may well have an advantage that he can take to the line.
Up nearly 2 seconds. You've seen Michael Terrafino, though. He has to recover spots, right? You don't want to have to use your drop around early on in a season like this.
You certainly don't. But, I mean, the most important thing, I guess, as well, is that even if he does end up using this as drop round, he does want some kind of safety net. When you do have a championship leader, when you're involved in a championship fight, you want a safety net to when there's a drop week, which means, of course, if you have a strong drop round, if you're dropping a lot of points, you can afford to have a really bad race and you'll still get quite a few added to your total, because your previous drop round obviously becomes an actual score that you take on as part of your total. So you do kind of want that a bit of safety net, and Terrafino just building that one up. Done a really good job to recover actually from where he was.
Looking back at the battle for 4th. Merrill seems to be very comfortable with this fixed setup to be able to grip these corner exits. 6 laps to go. Again, building up a decent buffer. Chandler is closer now compared to last time for the draft.
Certainly is, but can he just edge alongside this Ferrari that's going to be very, very difficult to pass inside line at turn 1? He's going to wait a little bit longer. Doesn't want to throw it down the inside and throw it all away immediately.
It's the margin of patience needed for some of the drivers, yes. These drivers scrapping. Steven Martinez, Jay Steffi, Eric Calarga all grouped together as well. Again, 25th to 9th for the Ford. What can you say? It's the Ford.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. I'm not really sure where he's gained that position from, because he was holding on dearly for 10th place earlier on. Mark Files had a long stop, Baron Glover as well, I guess. But none of the other real contenders around Kulaga I could really see having a long stop there. So I'm not entirely sure how he's managed to gain that place, but he has an even more secure top 10 at the moment.
Keep in mind, based on the pit stop estimate, he took less fuel, a 14-second stop. Out of the entire field, that was the quickest scheduled stop outside of Roy Brown and Felix Feliz. So there's some of the time pickup. Eric Larga trying to pick up a chance on Jay Steffi, who's slipping back this lap.
Good for him to just kind of hook onto the back of this battle, really. Even if he doesn't get involved, he'll just get towed along by this. But unfortunately for him, Bella and Mackenzie are also getting towed along. This is, I believe, lap 1, is it? Or lap 1. This is how Kulaga made up so many places. Well, there's 5 just in turn 1, so that'll help him.
5, make it 6. That's where he picked up some of them. Remember, he was amongst the survivors of the chaos at the start of the race that ended up taking out, at the time, 8 drivers. In total, at least 4 or 5 from those earlier stages of the race have since returned after upwards of 12 to 15 minutes of repairs to try and score points.
It's a great effort. Just to keep things, just to keep things on the conservative side, really, and slip your way through like Kulaga has done. It's very impressive, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of that in the sprint race coming up later as well.
I think that's going to be an understatement to see how some of the battles fare out when it comes to the sprint series tonight. Taking a look at one of the lunatic machines. Again, team partner in part with Moonlight Speed and some of their power. Behind that car, McKenzie trying to get up to Dino Velo to get to the top 10 after the early damage. 18 spots. They're tied for the second biggest mover of the race still.
A little bit of danger here for Kulaga, really, with Vela and McKenzie both getting up to the back of the Ford now. Clear that the Audis are certainly quicker. Kulaga's trying to hang on to Steffi the best that he possibly can, but it's proving to be pretty difficult indeed. Coming around the Parabolica now, this is kind of forming up again to what we saw before the pit stops. Really, we didn't really see this straight afterwards because things split apart quite a lot. But we're starting to see the group come back together again, and we're starting to see the leading gap come down even to below a second. So everything's just coming back together a little bit in these final moments.
Fishing rods being brought out, some of the draft absolutely impacting some of the competitors. It's back down to 1 second for these two, up to the group that has the 4. So now it's a 5-car train, 7th through 11th. Michael Kulaga came over the radio. We had to deal with a slowdown. In fact, Alex Wright's also letting by the drivers in the lap traffic there.
Very good from the lap traffic to just let all of them through, really. Would be very easy to get involved in a battle like this, but thankfully staying out of things, and that's what we want to see. There are a fair amount of lap cars running around there at the moment. A lot of them have come out from their long pit stop at the start of the race to pick up some points.
How difficult is that to know, or rather, what's that mentality as a driver to try and recover from bad qualifying like we've seen today? To never give up, as the saying goes. How do you make sure you remember that?
Well, I think you've got to remember that it's only a 35-minute race, really. It's not too much of an effort to just drive on for a little bit longer than that. I mean, the longest pit stop we've seen recovered from 16 minutes from Angelo Veloz. You need 50% of the laps completed to score points in the PRL. So Veloz currently 8 laps down on what we're expecting to be a 20-lap race. He should be absolutely fine. So that kind of incentive really does mean that all of these drivers would be silly not to carry on, really. So it's a bit more of a no-brainer than what you'd see maybe in a longer race, where it really is an achievement to get to the end, and it really is a bit of a struggle to just motivate yourself to drive around.
That we have to remember, keeping it clean, going to be very vital for a lot of these teams. There goes a send for the Ford for a moment. No, Kulaga did take a peek to try and get up to aid Jay Steffi. Hold on defensively, and here comes Dino Vela. One of the Forge machines bringing Colin McKenzie towards him as well to try and get around the old-timey Ford. It feels funny saying a Ford from 2010-11 is old.
Well, it kind of is, but the fact that I can remember those years really quite well is quite concerning. But anyway, enough on that. It's really quite a sight to see, and it's going to be quite a battle here at the end, I think. Vela's going to have a good chance of getting through, and Kulaga, Kenzie may well do as well. Let's not forget, we're in the final 4 minutes now, 3 laps to go, maybe even 2 when we get to the line. We'll have to see where Matshreff is and when he gets to the line. But, there's not many laps to go here, not many chances left.
Have to watch to see what drivers are willing to do now with the closing stages coming up. About 2 estimated laps to go at the stripe. Be tight, though, on that respective timing if we get an extra lap, Renault, and that may skew some of the people's strategies. Inovella did not get a good run through Ascari. Heading up to Parabolica, already dropping back nearly the full second. Might have one shot to make the pass, depending on what happens up in front with those two.
Oh, just had to lift off there on the exit of Parabolica. Really damaging that is for your whole run onto the front straight. We just heard it on board with the Audi. And you can see the Ford now getting away. In the rearview mirror, we'll see Mackenzie getting close. And you can see the weaving around from Bella there. He is getting slightly close. Bella just weaving to the inside there just to put Mackenzie off from making any dive there, I would imagine. And what I think is their penultimate lap.
It'll likely indeed be that case. Colin Mackenzie. They close up a couple car lengths to be able to realistically have the draft send. Keep in mind. Top 5 are separated out 11 seconds. The difference between them. This is one of the closer battle packs in the field. These final stages of this race here for the fixed series. That's been the best section for Mackenzie, but he's not been able to take the run anywhere.
No, there's no way you can get through there. It's a very short run into the next corner. It's not an ideal overtaking point either. So this is where it becomes a little bit difficult at Monza, really. It is, not an easy circuit to overtake on. Not a hard one either, but certainly not easy. So you do have to certainly think about it. And you can't just pass anywhere. Things are going to stay very close together here, and it really is all going to come down to the very final lap.
Very likely at the rate we're going, it's going to come down to those final moments for some of the battles. Likely going to be the final time around this time. Matt Sheriff is coming out of Parabolica. The rest of this train worked its way towards said section. No movement shown from Barney up at the flag stand, keep in mind, so we'll see how this goes when they come around the next time.
I'm pretty convinced this will be the final lap. I'm pretty convinced this will be the final lap of this race because the leaders would have crossed the line at about 1:35 to go in the race, and they're doing 1:50s roughly in this one. So I think this is going to be a 19-lap race, a little bit shorter than what we were expecting. But then again, that prediction hadn't quite factored in the pit stop that, of course, these drivers have had to serve.
No sends yet again. Up out to the first corners. Again, just seemed like a draft train, just draft law. Because the car in front of you has draft, not able to take advantage.
Yeah, exactly. It's very hard to do that when you're, stuck in a train like this, and the car in front has draft, and then again for the car in front, and another car and another car. It gets very, very tricky indeed. Battles like this are a lot more likely to change, as we've just seen Mark Fowle get his way up to 15th place.
Oh, Urban having to cut back on the gas as a result of the checkup. So, not able to get a run built up as a result of said checkup scenario. Clock reaching its final few seconds here. See what is scored here up on the board. Reach full zeros, yes. Final lap shown, now on the ticker. Last lap now shown. Matt Sheriff leading every single lap today. Comes out of the final corner to close it out. A dominating victory. Matt Sheriff picks up the win in Italy. Rexoy in second, Go Million in third.
Very good drives for all of them, and I mean very lonely drives as well for the most part. That's where most of the battling was, a little bit further down, but in the end no positional change there either. Even in that train, it is pretty hard to overtake, it seems, in that particular final moments of those races, or that race I should say. The top four, though, completely lonely drives for all of them. Well-deserved results, though. What's going to be a really shaken-up field now, heading into the Christmas break, heading into the week off. It's going to be, really, really shaken up from what we saw at the Red Bull Ring. Really no form guide to go off, even after 2 rounds of this championship.
Very different types of races compared to the 2 starting rounds, absolutely. A few more cars grouped together to close up the race, 25th on back. Patrick Calgill trying to gain up on Steve Bammer. Not able to do so. Jason Lotridge also in this pack. And among the final drivers to finish this race up on the lead lap, in turn 32 drivers get that distinction here today. So with that, all drivers coming across the stripe except for just 2. Those 31st and on back finish things up now. Matt Sheriff, meanwhile, he finishes up a victory by 1.7 seconds over his Vulture Motorsports counterpart from the south in Rexoy. Joe Million finishes in third, 4.8 seconds back for Forge Racing Team Gold. Andrew Monero finishes in fifth with Ryan Chandler 13th to 5th, Michael Kalaga 6th, St. Martinez 7th, Jay Steffi in 8th, Eric Kalaga 25th to 9th in a Ford, 10th in Ovella. Colin McKenzie finished behind those respective drivers by about a couple and hundredths in the 11th position. Michael Terrafino, remember, was amongst that top 10 as well tonight. He finished in 12th, though, after his early troubles. Selden Hamilton in 13th, Phil Amaro in 14th, Mark File, Aiden Irvin, and Sully Sayad from 4th, back down to 17th from the spin. Ryan Hoskins in 18th, Drew DeWeese in 19th. Then it's Baron Glover after a penalty, still getting a top 20. 21st, Winter Regan Chandler. Felix Feliz, 22nd. Roy Brown, Craig Doucette, Steve Bammer, Patrick Calgill, and Jason Lotridge once the top 27. Diego Morales, Ryan Luna, and Matt Dinsmore inside the top 2/3. Yelp Lord finished in 31st today, with the last driver of the lead lap being Federico Carli. Frank Johnson finished a lap down. Then a majority of these drivers after this mark tried to recover by coming out of damage. Bodo Walden was the first of those recovery drives from 30 to 34. Ray Benetti and Jordan Walker also in that group, as well as Glenn Benko. Barry Cochran 6 laps down in 38th. Lucio Vargas did finish the race in 39th. Alex Wright as well in 40th. 12 Volos, 41st. Dale Pedersen, Chad Karif, along with Rob Campbell, Robert Deloach, Greg Macarini, the 46 entries. That's what top to bottom at tonight's running order for the fixed series for our drivers tonight. It's Matt Sheriff who comes away with the victory tonight. Matt Sheriff now joins us for post-race coverage here on RaceSpot. Matt, dominating performance from start to finish. You led them all.
Yeah, thank you. I can't believe it. I saw the pole lap and was blown away because I couldn't keep up with anybody in practice. And then we just did so good. We got a good start. And then me and Rexoy, we worked together and just kind of pulled away from everybody.
How big is this to be able to turn things around a bit with the momentum? One of the few drivers, in fact, in the top 10 in points to start off the season after the Red Bull Ring to finish the race clean.
Yeah, it's big. Hopefully we can keep momentum going, push forward in the points. It was been something I wanted to do for Christmas to get myself a win right before Christmas is the best way to do it. So I'm just so pumped.
I would describe the family support, because looking over towards our broadcast chat, a lot of your friends and family are cheering you on right now.
Yeah, they're a big support. I have a little something on the back of the car for everybody. They've been great last season. They were even better this season, and I can't thank everybody enough. It's been amazing.
I believe you're talking about the high chat on the car.
Yeah, we got a couple little things on the car for everybody, so.
With that, congratulations on the victory tonight. You're the winner from Monza.
All right, thank you so much.
Matt Sheriff comes away with the victory tonight. He mentioned Rexoy coming away in second, helping him in the early going. He's with Ewan.
Rexoy, second place. Welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. Couldn't quite get there in the end. The pit stops ended up being defining. Just tell us a little bit about how you lost that little bit of a gap that you needed maybe to stay in touch for that race win. What were those closing stages like?
Yeah, hey gents, good. Thanks for having me on. I gotta say first, I gotta give it up to Matt because he definitely had the pace. I thought I would leapfrog him in the pit because I was saving so much fuel behind him, and we never swapped. But he pipped me out of the pit by, I don't know, 3/4 of a second, and I just never got it back. It was hard to get the car back underneath me once I put fuel back in it. So it took me 3 or 4 laps to get the tires settled in again. And by that time, he was a good 2 seconds down the road. So he had the pace. So good. Congrats to him.
These first two races, I should say, have been very, very crazy, though. The Red Bull Ring and Monza, two similar circuits, I guess, but have produced very, very different results for everybody. What are you expecting from the rest of this season as we go into now what is a short Christmas break?
I'm hoping for more good, tight, competitive racing. I think there was a little bit of a pile up there at the start. You don't see that too often. So I think we're going to get some good, clean, quality racing now.
Oh, that was two, which you see even less often. So, yeah, there you go. Hopefully we do see some clean racing, though, over the course of the new year. And hopefully you're involved in a part of it. Congratulations, I should say, on second place. And thanks very much for coming to join us.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks very much. iRacing there, second place here today at Monza.
Third spot tonight went to Maurice Gomillion. And Maurice Gomillion stayed in the top 3 all night for Forge Racing Team Gold. How would you describe your night from your viewpoint, I should say?
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, it was pretty fun, actually. We had I think a couple of incidents behind us. The first 3 cars, I think that kind of spread out the field a little bit there, and so it kind of gave me a little bit of breathing room. But overall, it was pretty decent. I think we had similar pace to the first 2 guys, and I think I was able to leapfrog a couple of them in the pits. But it was 2 other guys that came out before me, so I wasn't really able to close the gap on them. But pretty good finish, I guess, for a Forge team. So I'm pretty happy.
When it comes to the Ferrari, it's been talked about the speed down the straightaways very much bumped up as part of the build. How would you describe that feeling from the Ferrari?
It's pretty fast. Those Audis are still pretty quick too. I'm not going to say they're the fastest, but I think they probably will run neck and neck with the Audis. But I think it's all about just kind of getting off the corner and getting that speed built up.
One last quick question. Of course, the holidays coming up. How are you spending your holiday break?
With family, pretty much. I'll be local. I'm not going anywhere, but we'll be spending it with my family, so it should be fun.
Well, congratulations on the top 3. Thank you very much for the time, Gomillion.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
There's Gomillion. Rounds out the top 3 tonight. Giovanero also, I believe, standing by as well. Why don't we get a couple quick words with a 4th-place runner as well? He's with you in real quick.
Yeah, Andrew, welcome to the commentary booth as well. 4th place here in this one and fighting off quite a sizable pack there at the end. First of all, can you hear us? Having some problems there. We certainly can't hear him.
Venero, do you have a copy? Now it's Andrew Venero. Apologize for his technical issues here. Again, let him focus on his rest of the evening. Again, these drivers, though, going to be able to see how the notes compare to what the Sprint Series is able to do. We welcome you to part 2 of our coverage tonight, the PRL's Sprint Series, powered by VCO, as it's time for open setup competition here in the PRL tonight. Lots of action coming from the Red Bull Ring for this class as well, but there was one story from that season opener. Precision Racing Esports are 1-2-3 through their 2 team outfits in the pro side.
Yeah, in the pro side of things, they were absolutely dominant there in that race with Elliot White, Pat Pelchat, and also Daniel Kreskowski as well in that Precision Racing Esports car. Absolutely unbelievable. There they are, 1, 2, and 3 in the pro standings with Remen Yip and Noah Anderson running out the top 5.
Don't forget drivers like Zach Kerr coming into tonight with a points penalty that's seen him shuffle down a bit. Remember, Kerr was amongst the top 3 as well in the race much of the run. However, because of said penalty, he slides down. That's in result of incidents in the respective race. That's seen him a 5-point deduction entering Monza. With that as well, though, there's the AM Championship. Alex Caruso, huge headlines in that race. Top 5 overall. And with how the point standings are structured this season for the AM class, that is huge for the Race Factory Blue driver.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. 12 points of a championship lead already in this one. Turner Scroll's got quite a big lead over Christopher Reeds as well for second place. So that's pretty big. I mean, while I get the arguments against using a point system like this and doing it the way we are this season in the PRL, I sort of like it at the same time. It makes it very, very challenging for them to score any points at all. So it's I kind of like that challenge in some respects. Obviously, I get the downside, but I also kind of like the challenge of it. Let's just hope that we don't get a complete runaway winner, of course, although Alex Caruso is very good and does deserve a big championship lead because to score an overall podium as an AM driver is very, very impressive.
Keep in mind when it comes to the team championship as well, Race Factory Blue, as a result of their strong runs in the AM class at least, top 3 in the team standings. But as mentioned, the points separated in the PRL's esports division through their 2 entries. The 112 entry got the better of the 2 runs, top of the standings as a result of the 2 other drivers in the top 5 for that part of the platform. Delta Sport is the meat in the sandwich in second in the team standings. PR Esports in the 111 back in 6th, with Uprun and Blue Chip also doing well. Sim City Racing did show good speed, human, but bad luck bit them with the result of attrition.
Yeah, SimCity Racing, a kind of new team that are kind of emerging onto the scene in a number of leagues that, interestingly, we cover on RaceSpotTV, to be honest. They were racing in either, I think, certainly in the Endurance Series. They maybe had a car in the Sprint Series. I don't think they had a car in the Sprint, actually, but they certainly had a car in the Endurance Series on Saturday, here in the Precision Racing League as well. Good to see them here, of course, but if that first race is anything to go by, Precision Racing Esports are going to be very, very difficult to beat. Although Delta Sports drivers of Zach Kerr and Kormadov are very evenly matched, which does help.
This should be an intriguing one to say the very least tonight, as qualifying is underway about the same time as the previous session for the fixed drivers. Massive difference, it's much colder. By about 12 degrees, the track temperature. Talk about that a little bit later on. But the same qualifying format, 10 minutes, 4 laps of qualifying, with 50% fuel tanks for this race as well. It was Boris Egno-Ovando who led the way in practice with a 146 flat over Daniel Grzelski and Pat Pelcha. Karl Modov returning to competition this season 4th, and Dominic Olivier are the top 5 of the points, or rather in the practice. So a lot of these drivers carrying over speed from last time. We start things off looking at Jennifer McDonald. Jennifer McDonald not going to go from the mid-pack to the top of the board, a part of this 59-car field.
Oh my goodness. If we thought the first race was going to be carnage, then my goodness, the second race is going to be unbelievable. 59 cars. I mean, what's that, about a quarter more than what we had in the first race? We had about 46 cars starting the fixed series race. Yeah, this is going to be quite a thing to behold. And once again, re-emphasising my point earlier on, and people are probably tired of me saying it now, but you've got to stay up the front at Monza in these first few moments, because you are just going to have to come to a dead stop at turn 1, and maybe again, judging by the last race.
Donald again on the first lap currently. One of the Midwest-based drivers in this series. We'll see where McDonald fares out. Their best time in practice was a 147 flat in the BMW. It wants the first drivers to put in times, as many of them are coming down the front straightaway on their screens. Ethan Lowski, Turner Schroll wants the first ones to set times up on the board. Where does Jennifer go? Coming up to the stripe this time. Not really seeing too much of shuffle, but there's a lot of shuffling, let's put it that way, as a result of some of those times getting bumped up. Dominic Olivier are already top of the board, for example. Also, the Lamborghini, 37.
Yeah,
Grzelski. Ewan had an incident point to start off the run. Grzelski, lots of expectations for Precision Racing Esports this year.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's been a great start to the season for them, as we've already mentioned. But looking to continue on with that now, really. Interesting to see them using a couple of different cars between themselves. Because Krasowski's in the Lamborghini here, but Elliott White in the Audi up front at the moment. He's currently second place right now, and him and Dominic Olivier have got a bit of an advantage over the rest of the field, although it's nothing much really as we hit the halfway stage in this session now. Very, very close indeed. Diego Morales not too far away. Kormadov running at the top four. Mark Stevenson with a good lap there in the AM category to break into the top 5.
And remember, the AM class drivers on your ticker tonight will be marked with the pink numbers, blue numbers for the pro drivers. There goes the pro driver spinning around. They'll have to reset again, maybe get one lap if that, to try and get it done on the tires.
Yeah, it will literally be one lap there, I'm afraid. And that's not ideal. You want to kind of build it up as these 4 laps go on, and you want to get quicker as you go along, as the fuel load goes down. You want to bed yourself in and then have your real best lap right at the very end, as we saw with an exciting end to the fixed series qualifying session about an hour ago. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to get to in the sprint series as well. But it seems that these drivers are really struggling with this session so far. And it is a difficult circuit to get right. I know I said it's not particularly exciting to drive and not particularly difficult either, but anything is hard to perfect.
White remembered someone with some eNASCAR College iRacing Series experience, trying to zip around and trying to build off the victory last time out. And when discussing things with Jerome Bertillon, one of the team owners and league owners, they were very high on Elliott White. They talked about a change in focus, in fact, trying to let drivers join the fray too for precision racing esports, who are not just the top split drivers per se, but a 3 to 5K iRating range to open up more doors.
Certainly, it's a good idea either way, and good to see those drivers putting that to good use at the minute. You can see the precision racing esports livery here, which almost looks like a promotional car for this series, to be honest, but you get the idea. It's a nice colour scheme. We see it elsewhere in sim racing as well, competing in plenty of events.
Plenty of different leagues, plenty of different special events and top split competition parts of the years. Elliott White this time around, not have a counted lap. Looks like he may have did not reset last time, had an incident point, in fact, this previous time. But here's the big thing with Dominic Olivier. Olivier had a horrific start to the season, Ewan. He also, most recently in league competition, crashed over the weekend in IFRA competition on the first lap. How big is this for his confidence after the nightmarish week and a half, 2 weeks for that 99 car in his camp? And in turn, the assistance for the rest of the team.
Yeah, for Olivier, it's going to be pretty big indeed, and he can't afford to let that kind of mount upon him and really get on top of him. He's got to get settled down with a good race, and he's done that well here with a good qualifying session so far. So part 1 of that is done, really. He's just got to go through with the race now and execute it, which obviously is easier said than done, but it is going to be pretty big for Olivier to get this race under his belt and get this race, strongly, or finishing in a strong position. But we'll see if he can manage it. I mean, sometimes we do overthink these things in commentary and broadcasting a little bit, thinking about these things more than the drivers do themselves sometimes. So maybe he'll just be looking at this one as another race and another opportunity to show why he can be a race winner once again.
Karl Modov, multiple-time race winner and champion in this series, at 48. Currently 6th in the session on the 3rd lap. Likely going to be his final chance to be able to bump up his time. The pole time still in the 1:46.4 from Dominic Olivier, who has closed down his qualifying run. Zowski getting up to 2nd in the session. Elliott White also done his qualifying. Where will the Delta Sport car go? Hard cut coming out of Parabolica, trying to cut a little bit under the white line, way under it, to a 1:46.1, 0.3 quicker than the nearest car.
Wow, that is a big surprise and a big jump up from Karmanov there, and that's a big gap as well at the front of the field. James Walker not going to be able to get anywhere near that with this lap time here. He's not going to improve from 9th position, but I don't think anybody's going to overtake Karmanov there up front. That is a huge margin. 3/10 of a second. Blake ZT not going to go any quicker. Ovando does go a little bit quicker, but nobody able to push that Audi off of top spot.
Qualifying comes to a close. 40 minutes up on the board for our drivers tonight. How will they fare out when it comes to Sprint Series competition? We're about to find out. Karl Modov starts on the pole tonight. 1/10 the difference between him and Boris Angel Ovando. Dominic Olivier, much different compared to last time, from no qualifying time to 3rd. Danik Krzelski will be in the top 4 tonight. Elliott White in the 5th spot with Jeremy Gonsalves in 6th. Diego Morales starts in 7th, Nick McLaughlin in 8th. Raymond Yip and James Walker in the top 10. There is a bit of shuffling amongst those respective times in the final session portions. Amongst those that are really shuffled about here, Pat Pelchat and Mark Stevenson also qualified well tonight. As the drivers take their way to the grid, I want some of the air drivers to keep an eye on throughout the night. Connor Wagner, who did well last time for a bit, 13th in qualifying. Why don't we look through the full session again? See those differences once again in your qualifying. As mentioned, Gonsalves rounding up that top 6 half a second difference. Nick McLaughlin amongst those just outside that top 6 to keep an eye on tonight. He's amongst the top 8 in qualifying. Pelchat deeper in the field from his strong win last time to 11th. Mark Stevenson, the top AM driver, in 12th. Mentioned Wagner did well in qualifying. Gary Brown coming from downtown to 14th. Daniel Wilfer and Jennifer McDonald in the top 16. Alex Caruso a bit further back in the AM class overall wise this time, with Blake Zedel alongside. Lloyd Kerr also did not qualify well tonight for Race Factory. He's in 19th. Salva Cortez, Ethan Ozalski, and Ted Lowendick trying to drive the legendary Team 10 line car, 22nd. Matthew Thunhorst, normally an oval and short track specialist, 23rd. Martin Crisp, 24th. Ryan Punchdown with some good speed, with Jerome Batiom in 26th, Nathan Deering and Zach Kerr way back today in 28th. Gal Agno Fonseca 29th in his Cyberpunk car, and Thomas Dunn 30th. Andreas Espinoza and Romain Foe in 32nd, Nicholas Larson and Noah Anderson behind. Nikos Tavardakis in 35th, with Sean Carmody in the 36th spot. Vicente Sepulveda alongside William Brennan tonight. John Antonino Taniano with Cedric Napev in 40th. Greg Conaway and David Lehman back in the 40s. Rest of the drivers scroll through the field. Christopher Rhines way far back tonight in 50th, for example. Turner Schroll also just in front of him. 2 drivers did not set times. Most notable of the 2, Sean Dickinson for SimCity Racing. 58th because he did not set a time. That's what topped him out of the running order. As mentioned, very cold track temperatures compared to what we've seen in the fixed race. 70 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, 68 the air temp. Wind also same direction but slower. These drivers ready to go fast. Off to the opening corners from Monza. It's the GT3 Sprint Series powered by VCO for the PRL. Green flag is out. We're underway from Italy. Good launch for the 948. Already side by side for second. Zalski trying to push ahead Ovando. 2 PRL drivers go side by side. So does the Sen for Ovando. Not able to keep it side by side. A much cleaner run compared to the sprint to the fixed. Or it was until the final part of the corner.
Turn 2 was the culprit on this occasion. It was turn 1 last time, turn 2. A little bit of contact, but not as much as we saw in the fixed series. Most of the drivers have been able to get their way through, and the battling is a little bit more fierce up towards the front here. Big defence there from Olivier in second place, and he's overshot the De La Rosière. Dear me, all the cars everywhere now. Nearly 3 wide into Lesmo 1, and through goes Chris Sofsky there, maybe into second place. He has done now, and you can see already coming off with a 2-second lead as a result.
That mistake was huge, though. 2 seconds indeed up for Karl Modov as a result has already broken the draft from the rest of the field. How critical is that on the first lap?
Could well be a race-winning gap already. It's very, very early on, of course, but could already be a huge margin that doesn't get closed down. Just depends on the organisation in the group for the second position. Oh, as the Lamborghini goes into the wall. Very, very hard indeed. And there's more contact afterwards as well.
The race leaders get collected. Second spot, Boris Egno Ovando spins. Raymond Yip and Mark Stevenson also collected. James Walker drives away from the scene. But your top driver in qualifying in the M class involved, John Antonio Amonsto's already having a tow. At least 3-4 cars stopped to the side of the track.
The big crash as well. A huge crash for Ovando. And in the end, pretty lucky to only collect another couple of cars in that one. I'm very glad as well, but the reduced numbers now in this battle for second might just help them. If these three can work together, then that is not going to be a race-winning gap for the 948. He could very much get reeled back in there in the Audi. We could very much have a leading battle on our hands once again, but it just depends on the cooperation that these three have.
Absolute chaos. But now, 3 of the Precision Racing Esports drivers able to hook up, look to try and push forward here. Once the team's star drivers this season, 1.8 seconds back of Karl Modov. Behind them, a little bit of a different story. A lot of squabbling right now amongst these drivers. Once them, the TDR machine of James Walker looking to get ahead, trying to catch around and already getting around Nick McLaughlin. Connor Wagner also is in this respective group. Jeremy Gonsalves is leading this pack in the 73.
Yeah, it's a long way from the lead already. These are the kind of things that do happen. So we see a dive there down the inside into Ascari, but yeah, Nick McLaughlin very much in the pro field now. Was AM champion back in season 3 of 2022. And so, oh, there's an Audi hard into the wall in the background as well. But yeah, good to see McLaughlin now in the pro field. That is not good to see, though. Danny Lafleur it was in the number 10 Audi. Ascari has proved to be a very, very difficult corner, or the exit of it indeed has been proved to be very, very tricky indeed. That's you know, the second car in 2 laps that we've seen into the wall there.
William Brennan and John Berry in the same section just crashed now in the 40s, by the way. So, what is Ascari? The major problem with Ascari, you think, with some of these drivers with how they've had their setups? In 4 minutes, we have 3 big ones in that section.
I think it's the curbs more than anything. You just grab the curbs as you're trying to maximise your exit out of there, the anti-cuts, and then all of a sudden you're going around and there's not much room for error there either. You find yourself in a wall very, very quickly indeed, because it is the most high-speed section of this circuit as well. So it's no surprise really. But yeah, just the curbs that catch you out. I'm surprised though that it didn't catch a few more out in the fixed series. I'd find it hard to believe it's something setup related.
Battle going on for some of the top spots in the AM class. Caruso and downtown Gary Brown swapping spots. Caruso making up the lost ground in qualifying. And Gary Brown right now in the Porsche trying to keep up. Based on some of the projections, Ewan, coming into the week, the Porsche was the second slowest average lap in official competition at Monza.
Not particularly encouraging reading for Gary Brown here, but he was ahead of Caruso there briefly. We did see pole in the AM category, of course, for Mark Stevenson, but unfortunately he was caught up in an opening lap incident in that Lamborghini, and he has dropped way, way down right now. But good to see these AM drivers mixing it up in there at the moment. I believe they're still just about outside the top 10.
See that flicker up at the top of the pylon. Karl Modov from the race lead has just had a technical issue. He's just returned, but nearly just dropped out of the session, Ewan. This is all while the battling's going on in the heart of the pack. That could have changed a lot. Speaking of changing around, some friends going side by side.
He certainly could have changed a lot there. Thankfully, Madoff back now, but that will certainly worry him. He's got more than half an hour to go, of course, before he ends up getting to the end of this one. If indeed he does, he's going to have to hope that his internet does hold out the whole way, which is going to be a very, very big ask indeed. He's going to have to hope that he holds out as well in the race lead, no matter what happens to his internet. So, at the moment, he's holding a nice margin, but just how long is that going to last for?
See, absolutely with that concern. Gary Brown on board with the Vulture Motorsports machine. Remember, this team did really well in the fixed race a little while ago. In fact, they had the top 2 cars from their team outfit. It just seems right now, downtown Gary Brown losing touch and quick wheels in front. Let's look at some of the incidents, though. These were in the opening corners.
That's a little bit silly, really, and I have to say that Mark Stevenson he's certainly at fault for this bit. He's trying to get going again, but you'd have to argue that maybe he was even at fault for that, Mark Stevenson, in the way that contact happened, because he needed to leave space on the inside of turn 2 there, but he didn't, and he was the one who ended up paying the price for that one, I'm afraid. So it went around. And, now he's still in the pit lane, well outside the top 20, and surely won't be scoring any points here from this race.
Then, the big one from the top 5.
Oh. It's not even the curb. It's not even the curb. It's just a really twitchy Lamborghini, and then all of the stuff afterwards, of course, that happens as well. But, yeah, just a very twitchy Lamborghini rather than actually being on the curb. That car was very, very nervous the whole way through.
That's actually a decent point to bring up, because it was mentioned for IFR competition with the Lamborghini, some of the corners, that it was extremely twitchy. Wonder if that might be the same thing here, but at Monza with that high-speed section. Because for comparison, it was seen at corners, for example, such as the run through Blanchimont.
Yeah, it's
with the Lamby.
Yeah, it's not the most high-speed circuit, of course, Monza, but when it does have high-speed corners, it is going to get unpredictable for you in the Lamborghini. You're just going to see it through here. I mean, of course, we are saying all this while there are still Lamborghinis running very well indeed, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's in third place indeed. But it's a difficult section of corners, and very, very easy to lose the car, as dear me, that's all going on further down towards the back, and this is a real roadblock for everybody. Oh, and that BMW just trying to reverse off the road. I guess what else could they do at that point? These are the kind of things that do happen when lap 1 is clean and the field remains close in towards the next few laps. It's been a remarkably clean start to this race, I have to say, given the amount of cars we saw in the pits last time. To see only 8 of them in at the moment is an achievement, really, even though it sounds like a lot.
With 59 entries. Again, 59. One of the highest fields you'll see all year, possibly, at the very least. Take a look right now, 13th position. Nick McLaughlin started top 8. He slipped on back in the running order. Gonzalo Cortez, who had a point penalty from the last race, looking to defend a 15-point penalty specifically for the 09, having to overcome. Look at McLaughlin in his setup, looking very chill tonight.
When doesn't he, to be fair?
I think he's added a couch since the last time we saw him.
Oh, maybe. I don't pay forensic attention to his background, to be fair, but he may well have done. Just always pretty chilled out, really, pretty relaxed at the wheel. That's exactly what you've got to be, really, in this position right now. Because some very high stress situations arise in these races. A cool head often prevails. Nick McLaughlin's certainly got one of those. Certainly knows how to win a championship in the PRL as well.
An interesting question, too, that a lot of drivers have discussed. What's better? Triple monitor, big curved monitor, or VR? And why?
I think personal preference comes into it quite a lot. Some drivers, and I guess I would include myself in this, couldn't drive in for 40 minutes with the VR headset on. It's very realistic and very good, of course, but it's not exactly fast. Not for me, anyway. But some drivers definitely do find it to be the fastest option. It's some people don't like the triple screen for whatever reason. Would prefer a longer curved one. It is really personal preference, I would say. And some people, even going back to the Stone Age, what happened to the single monitor back in my day and all that? Some people even sticking with the single monitor, and why not?
Some shuffling to the heart of the pack. Amongst them is this man, Ted Lowendick. Always trying to show off those displays. I believe that display's gotten bigger since the last time. And yes, that is a Toy Story hat.
It seems huge as well. This is what we enjoy, by the way, with the face cameras that we get sent in at the Precision Racing League. Always a highlight of the evening, of course. Just to see what the drivers are up to, and you can tell a lot by the emotions that are going on just within their body language and within their face.
Something going on with one of the Forge cars. This driver was in 10th. Ethan Olwowski. Some troubles, and yes, it's a Lamborghini. So there goes a few spots now for the 333. Even more spots, in fact, as there goes Blake Zede, who was 20th to start the lap, now 19th.
Seemed to pull off the road, though, did Oskowski there. I don't really know why, but just pulled off the road, or pulled out of line at least, and then jumped over the curb. Don't know if he was clearing a slowdown, but it would have been one hell of a slowdown that he was clearing, if indeed he was. So I don't really know quite what's going on there. He's certainly pushing the Ferrari now. He's gone from pushing now maybe to overtaking towards the end of the straight. Brakes a lot later, and will head down the inside to get that position. But yeah, very odd moment.
Cover one of the spots quickly on Blake Zede. Indeed, there was some bump drafting up the road scene. Sean Dickinson, who gained 25 spots, also just had a small issue in 35th position. And that's the major thing we talked about. Some big-time chances to build up positions as a result of some of this racing here today with some of the trouble spots. Take, for example, the head of this pack we're now looking at. Andreas Espinoza is up 20 spots in the grand total of 7 laps. One of the Speedworks Racing Team eSport Pro cars. These are some of your biggest movers in the respective classes you've seen for the moment. Gonzalo Cortez, Alex Caruso, Nick McLaughlin in the train, Gary Brown staying in it, and Jennifer McDonald. Impressive in 16th also in the train.
Does, of course, help a lot just getting through these moments. And now, given the fact that we have seen a little bit less chaos, you can make up positions as well a little bit easier than you could in the previous race. Some, especially down in this section of the order, we saw real big gaps outside the top 20. But lots smaller ones here, just inside of it, as you can see. Number of battles making their way down towards Parabolica as we hit the quarter-hour mark in this race very nearly. Some drivers going to be starting to think about pit stops. I do wonder how many have been thinking about it from the very start of this race. Have just been lifting off a little bit, saving a little bit of fuel. Are they indeed just trying to knock off a second or two from their pit stop to maybe gain a bit of an advantage that way?
Blanking from Alex Caruso and company. Espinoza losing a spot that time to Gonzalo Cortez. Caruso still leading the AM class by about a second over downtown Gary Brown with how things have broken down. More troubles, meanwhile, Matthew Thunhorst, oval specialist, dropping outside of the top 25 with a slide overall in the race. 25th in the pro class. One of the Forge cars. Watch the curve.
Yeah, up on the curb, back down again, and on the traction, just whirls wildly around. You'd think, well, some people seem to think that traction control will save you from everything. Not suggesting that he does, but of course, but it certainly doesn't, as explained there. These GT3 assists can only help you so far. Can't get up on the curb like that, especially not in the Lamborghini. and so goes around on the exit of turn 2 there to drop quite a few places in that portion of the field.
Very quietly 5th in the M class, by the way, is this machine, 30th overall. Nikos Dermodakis, that is a ways far back in the field, but he does have pressure from Darren Rutherford. That's how big some of the spread is for the M class today because of some of the craziness to start. Turner Schroll, one of the top drivers to start the season in M class history the past year, is all the way back in the 36th overall spot.
Yeah, only 6 AM drivers inside the points at the moment, and this is what's with the point system here in the PRL here this season. It's really, really difficult to score points when you're an AM driver. We've got Caruso and Brown who are going to be scoring quite a few points at this moment. Blake Seaty might well get 11 if races were to end right now, but Nathan Deering, Sakadakis, and also Sakadakis, I should say, and also Darren Rutherford as well would score points, but it would be way less than 10 points, and not very many at all in that case. So it is very, very difficult to score points in this AM category here this season with the way we've got the point system working. My word.
Oh, and Butchell getting bumped out of the way. Zach Kerr getting to the back end of him with the right side of the car. Butchell now up for grabs on Nathan Deering's run. One of the M cars with a bit of damage. Butchell able to defend, though, in his pro position. Really started there what we just seen with Ted Lowendick wanting to make a move in the Team Headline machine up the track. Now Butchell getting very defensive. Fonseca trying to back it up. Nathan Deering holds on. Thomas Dunn closes the gap on them.
I really thought that Lamborghini was going to push the Porsche around at that really narrow portion of the circuit just under the bridge there. Thankfully, it didn't happen because it would have been an absolute catastrophe. But it sorted things out. A lot of weaving around, though, and a very, very nervous moment. For me, I didn't enjoy watching it, but through now and all back to single file again as we sort of approach this halfway stage in the race right now. And some even thinking about pit stops, or at least one Lamborghini is.
A couple drivers pitting indeed this time, so the window's open. Zach Kerr amongst the notables. Connor Wagner looking at Wagner. Very slow day today for his Porsche. Up to 10th, only 3 spots gained for one of the top drivers previously in open wheel competition for Delta Sport.
But let's not forget, he is the best performing Porsche out there on the circuit right now, and he'll be getting the feeling that despite the fact he is obviously a very strong driver, and you might expect more from him on a normal day, but what more can he do to pull that Porsche through in this kind of race? It seems to be really struggling. What more can he do really at this stage to actually pull that one through? Not entirely sure. So Conor Wagner in 10th right now, but might well be reaching the limit. We used to see this, to be fair, with the BMW Z4 at Monza. He's the most obvious example. A top 10, even in a long race at this circuit in the Z4 was good because that car was so bad in a straight line. Not suggesting that the Porsche is quite on that level, but it's not its strongest circuit, let's put it that way.
Seen that throughout the night tonight. Battle for the race lead. Dominic Olivier, Daniel Krasowski closed up 2 seconds to get here. Now Dominic Olivier wants to make a move for the lead. Olivier to the right side, off to the opening corner. Modov lets him have it. New race leader Dominic Olivier. First lead change of the day.
A real great pace shown by him as well for this one. Dominic Olivier has been reeling this one in slowly. He's not really had much help from Krasowski just in behind there, but he's been able to close the gap on his own. And now, without too many attempts, he's been able to overtake Modov, and it just shows what you can do when the car you're trying to overtake doesn't have draft as well. When everybody's in a train, it is quite difficult, but when you're one-on-one, just easy things out a little bit.
They've already ditched Krasowski by a few tenths of a second at least, 1.7 seconds, in fact, the difference between first and second. These two now look to work and break forward as a result of that right in the midst of the pit window. Around the timing of stops, already at the halfway mark this time around. 11 estimated laps in, rather 11 projected through, 11 estimated to go.
Makes sense. We are just about the halfway mark. We do have a pit stop to come as well, of course. But makes just about sense. This 40-minute race that I believe is far from over. The slipstream here will certainly help the Audi. But we are looking at the two strongest cars out there right now at this circuit, battling it out, and some of the strongest drivers as well. Dominic Olivier and Carmenov very, very quick indeed. And so Olivier, well, he's going to try and pull away, and it looks like he might be able to on this early showing.
Yep, he's ditched his teammate and nearly is ditching Karl Modov, but the draft is keeping the Audi in the range.
Well,
good braking again for the 948 machine, close back up the ground, but you see right there, another 10th for Olivier. Olivier is better on corner exit right now.
and it's all well and good having the draft keep you in the range, but being in the range doesn't get you an overtake by any means. He's close, but unless he can do something on pit strategy with a shorter pit stop or something, then being in the range doesn't really count for very much at all. He's got to be close enough to actually have a go at Olivier. It is a little bit early to be talking about that kind of thing, really. We're still 18 minutes to go, but it's well, it's never too early to think about those kind of things, I suppose, first of all, but also it's just helpful for now to have that draft, stay within half a second or so, and that will be good enough for now, but it won't be good enough for a race win if it carries on like this for the entirety.
Let's look at one of the battle packs meanwhile. Seiko, we've seen a lot of shuffling in this pack. Nathan Deering in front. Ted Lowendick has ditched them. Again, that very colorful cyberpunk theme machine has had to dodge a lot in front of him tonight. With Ryan Punchtail's troubles earlier, remember.
It's a remarkable livery. I mean, we're not going to miss it in the order. Commentator's dream. And nice camera angle here as well. Quite what's going on. He can't be watching us as well. I hope he's not listening. That'd be very distracting. Oh no, he's not watching, is he? He's in VR, of course he is.
You can see, though, he does have the stream up on the monitor and something fluffy to the right. Karamodov pit this time around, so we may see a lot of these drivers duck in. So now, Olivier on his own. Krzyzewski also went forward with Elliott White as well, staying out. Interesting call, but remember, he was on his very lonesome most of the run, no one to save fuel with.
Yeah, stays on the floor as well. No tyre changes there. No, yeah, that will be pretty surprising to see, I would imagine. Comes out now, not going to be in too much traffic, I don't think. He's at least going to have a lap there, more or less, of undisrupted. Well, maybe not actually. It's going to be a little bit less than that. He has got a couple of cars up in front of him. They could either help him with a bit of a slipstream, or they could really, really hinder him by slowing him down in the corners.
Looking at Olivier. 1.7, making 1.6 seconds separate him and Krzyzewski. Here's the thing that's helping Krzyzewski. You see that blue car on the backdrop? That just fed him a ton of draft from Sean McGuinness before this pit stop.
It's always a help, but it just depends whether he actually slowed him down through the two Lesmos preceding that, which might negate that. But if it was just a slipstream, then Olivier has got this race even more in his hands than I previously thought. Quarter of an hour to go, and you'd imagine he's going to be in here just to react at least to Carmenov's pit stop on the previous lap.
Armodov is in the grouping 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th for reference. Olivier is in. Krzyzewski continues. Armodov, it looks like, has squabbled a bit with downtown Gary Brown, who is yet to take service. In turn, has lost touch a bit to Ted Lowendick and Blake Ziti. Not gonna cost him. See the time closing up for Olivier. Yes, it is gonna cost him 14 seconds. Olivier. The squabbling for Modov gonna cost him a lot of time. Olivier coming out of the pit lane. Modov just passing the start and finish line moments ago. The gap, about 2-3 seconds now between net first and second. And he took less fuel.
Yeah, the gap's big, and the lap car in between will seem bigger for Karbadov just in the middle of them as well, because that gap's going to only extend. It even gives a chance for Grosowski actually to get in front as well there in the Lamborghini. Karbadov's pit stop for whatever reason a little bit longer than it really needed to be there. Or, well, certainly longer than Olivier's pit stop. So, not sure if it was longer than it needed to be, but I am sure that it's cost him quite a lot of time. And so he's going to have to put to work very hard indeed to get back in front. Although Olivier could get held up by Larson here through this next lap, and he really does need to be held up a lot to lose this race lead.
So it's about a 2-second buffer over the 948 in the backdrop. Ramodov on his own. Larson now gives a little bit of space. Not the spot you expect to move quite per se, but Ascari gets him to clean space either way. Back to about a 3-second cushion. Grzelski and White coming in this time by for their scheduled pit stops with under 13, make it 14 minutes to go, coming to 13 left and 8 estimated laps to go. See some of the theatrics, having to get around the cars to find your stall.
Yeah. It's always pretty tricky in such a big field, but it comes to a stop there in the box. Olivier now makes his way down the pit lane, and unless it's a really, really short stop, you would imagine it'll be absolutely well, it is quite short. Is there going to be a conversation here? There's certainly going to be one for second place, because we saw Karbadov in that second place pretty comfortably earlier, but now he's down to third.
So Grzelski jumps Modov. The 1.6-second quicker pit stop. All drivers have now completed their scheduled service for this race as a result of this cycle. An eventful one to say the least. Olivier, though, holds on to about a 2-second lead. Grzelski has struggled a little bit throughout some of these corners compared to his teammate, though, in the Lamborghini. should say.
I think this is going to be a fight to the very end between these two. Or between those two, I should say.
Some of the squabbling coming in the heart of the pack. Amongst those coming out of the pits, Dad Lowendick up to 19th. In either competition, it was a nightmare. A bit better today for the Tedline car.
They're doing well. Up there inside the top 20. Well, inside there in the top 10 now. It was briefly. So, yeah, top 20 again now. But, yeah, still no mistake in who's driving that car even now. Small side by side. This is not even for points favored positions anymore. But still fierce battling here for 10th place in AM. That was arguably too fierce, actually, as they both lose out on time and positions.
It's a battle amongst some of the AM drivers. Zach Kerr also zipping on by. Or amongst the pro competitors in the pack is now the 07. Durdakis lost a lot of ground. Remember, he was up as high as 5th in the points for AM. Into 36th place, Porsche as well. Giansetti, very quiet today. In the VR headset outfit today. Lots of the drivers who started way back. 17 spots gained. And yes, Zach Kerr is having a technical issue for those wondering.
Another nice move inside the top 10 there for the 41. Up a position, but still not inside the points. This is what makes it so difficult as an AM driver. Still needs many more positions to even score 1 point, while Alex Caruso is currently sat comfortably in 13th position.
You scratched that last moment about technical issues. It's a disqualification, Ewan. Zach Kerr somehow has hit the incident limit. Did not seem to have a black flag.
Well, I believe he's still going to score points at least, but that is a big surprise. You very rarely see that in a 40-minute race quite like this one. But I guess it's been a very physical one and a very difficult one for some, and so you might be able to reach the incident limit, I suppose.
Jennifer McDonald still holding on to 14th in the pro class tonight. That BTL Motorsport machine, very quick tonight for its tempo with that kind of car. Martin Crisp able to also get himself up into a decent amount of points after bad qualifying again. And that's the thing. Those cars, you talked about their struggles. They were quick in practice. They just could not qualify.
Yeah, and that really sets you back. We spoke about it, the concertina effect through the first couple of corners here. Even if you're not involved in an incident, you get set back a very long way. A very, very long way. And so it's just difficult to make your way back forward, even if you do have a good pace in the car. So you just got to kind of take your medicine, really, and just pick up what points you can. Because the damage is really done. Qualifying really, really important in this series now, with only the top 30 scoring points for a pro and an amp. You've got to be up there from the very start at any circuit, especially this one. So it makes qualifying very, very crucial. If you're not a very good qualifier or you don't get it right on the day, then you're not going to be scoring many points in the series, no matter how fast you are over the 40 minutes.
In the battle for second. Hold off, you see, starting to pick up a little bit of a whiff of that draft to be able to close up a bit. Brzezowski, though, has been quicker to start this run the past couple laps. Might have a shot this time, though. Good exit coming out of Parabolica. Modov all the way to the back end. Defensive line taken. Brzezowski crowds him a little bit. If anything, squeezes him up in the braking zone.
Two were very close together on the straight there, but I mean, Modov had a little bit of space to his left-hand side there to actually use. So yeah, it wasn't too much of a squeeze from the 37, really. It wasn't too bad. It's just aggressive racing between the two, but we are going to see a good fight between these two. I'm pretty sure of it. It's not like the draft tray battles we saw a little bit earlier on in the race. Last race and this race, I suppose. This is a two-car battle. This is 1v1, and it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. We're coming up to what could be still 4 laps to go. We'll wait and see if it's 3 or 4 laps to go at the line here.
Dak Kerr, as mentioned, got a DQ. Ted Lowendick just got a ride to be able to send him off the circuit. Lowendick drops all the way back to 20th. Make it 24th amongst the pro drivers. He was battling with Blake Ziti. Keyword was. But this was on his own, I think. Yeah.
Completely on his own, and a big surprise really into turn 1. But these Audis and Lamborghinis, I suppose, they're made out of some of the same stuff, and they're equally difficult to manage on occasion. So it's pretty well. Ted Lowendick's found that out to his cost, I'm afraid, at turn 1, and now drops to the low part of the top 30. Not going to be many points for him today.
And a little bit blocky. This time a little bit.
Oh.
Shetty. Brzezowski turns his race into confetti. The movement under braking turns him across. Karl Modov for second.
Well, that one is going to be argued about. Who should have been where, who was squeezing who moved over on who. That is going to be very much argued about, and all of those things are going to be argued about between the two drivers. Komodov will say he was holding his line. Daniel Krzyzkowski would probably say the same, maybe. Or taking the racing line. We'll wait and see on a second incident, of course.
I mean, if the first attempt was the squeeze, a small squeeze, this was a lot more than that. Watch this.
Yeah. I mean, the Audi can't really go anywhere other than that. The left-hand wheels there are right up to the white line on the left-hand side there. But the Lamborghini keeps on coming and turns himself into the wall, really. That, well, I would leave that one as a no further action purely because the 37 has damaged itself in all of that.
Dusky curling in the 4th spot from it. Still some battles on the racetrack, though, including these drivers. And includes James Walker. Jeremy Gonzalez, very quietly, has just been running 7th the entire night.
Some very quiet drives so far today. Very, very quiet ones indeed. But that's the way you have to be also, just to pick up points. That's how you get a good tally together over the course of a season. Just stay out of trouble more than anything. As maybe as not entertaining as that is, it's the right way to do it.
Aboard this James Walker. DDR, of course, wants those who keep pretty busy when it comes to racing. We've seen some of their drivers in the past, Ewan on the oval side as well as the road side, do really well. Total downforce racing slipping back in recent years. But Walker doing a very fine job, I will say.
Yeah, just a quiet position at the moment, up here in 7th place. There is maybe a chance for them to catch Chris Kowski just up front there, and maybe get up and overtake him. Although there's quite a few seconds ahead right now, and not very many laps to go. The battle mainly going to be between these two. The Audi and the Ferrari, two of the strongest cars around this circuit, as we've seen time and again so far in this race. So, should be an interesting fight, but one of the last really competitive ones remaining inside the top 10, because the one for 4th place is set to be a one-way street, really, with Diego Morales surely going to get through at some point.
Downtown Gary Brown still boxed in amongst this. Deering's been bounced around a couple times over in the midst of some of these battles, absolutely too. Here comes the attempt on the move, and at the same time on another move, Thomas Dunn forces downtown Gary Brown to the left. Lets him back in line, however, but that took away a chance to make the pass on Nathan Deering.
A little bit of a wonky line there from Deering through the Ascari chicane, and now Brown's going to have the chance to go to the outside. Good straight line speed as well from the Porsche as it ducks out and gets slipstream off a fellow Porsche. Outside line at Parabolica's a very long way around, but he might be able to do it. This is going to get very intense down the landing. He slides back up in front of him on the exit of the corner. Not going to be able to. And now he's got a fellow Porsche right in the back of him as well, as this all gets very, very close over the line.
Well, the Pro Class drivers wants to giddy up and go. Both the M cars move to the right side. Gary Brown lets him have it. Deering not so much, a scrape to the door on the send, and there was some air. There's a slide. Deering side by side now with Brown.
Brown just keeps coming off worse in these fights for whatever reason. Just keeps on losing out and keeps on losing positions. He was up ahead of Alex Caruso earlier on, but now he's a long way down from that.
Deering did take responsibility, was about to say, Ewan, over the radio. Expecting the white flag, if not this being the final time around. In fact, the leaders coming around Olivier this time around for said white flag, so down to the final 20 seconds on the clock. Brown picks up at our incident point there. Some of these drivers getting very close to that. We'll have to see if anyone crosses the limit outside of Kerr.
Well, let's hope not. It's one thing where you obviously want to avoid, but it's pretty difficult to get up to as well in some cases. Monza not one of those really off-track heavy circuits, although it is possible to go off-track here or there. It's really the 4Xs with the contact that you want to avoid, because then you can really start to rack up the incident points very, very quickly indeed. But this is really quite a train going on to the last lap.
Final lap shown now on the track. This train amongst one of the close battles in the final stages. Again, 3rd spot for AM class on the line here. Deering and Brown looking to determine it. Deering trying to draft out Nicholas Larson. Gary Brown a fair bit back. throw in the mix. Vicente Sepulveda in the train, and they hit for the M spot. A huge mistake for Gary Brown into the back end of the Lambo from 5 car lengths back. Talk about the bump and move.
Yeah, I don't think that was intentional, but just got things a little bit wrong. And in the end, does move up a place. We'll get a point, of course, and demote an AM driver, which, of course, is very helpful, but not particularly what you want, particularly as Dominic Olivier comes to the line.
Dominic Olivier had to close up 2 seconds with his teammate to get up to Karl Modov. In the end, he drafts his way and then runs away with the win here at Monza. Karl Modov gets the second, Elliott White quietly in third. Diego Morales did get a spot on Daniel Krasowski after his incident. Closing stages, blinky blinky, Krasowski slips back to 5th. Good run for James Walker as well, finishing in the top 8 right behind Gonzalez. Connor Wagner the final spot in the top 10 tonight. Alex Caruso in the M class, meanwhile, pulls away with a clean run, 12 seconds up to win the M class.
Another really dominant performance from Alex Caruso in the AM class, and with the way that points have scored here this season, he's going to really extend that lead to possibly more than 20 points already in this championship fight, with most of his rivals scoring minimal points further down. Blake Ziti will have lost another 5 points to him there. Nathan Deering another 9, with most of the rest of the AM contenders scoring less than 10 points. Only 6 of them scoring points at all.
Did see that right, by the way. Gary Brown did lose the spot there in that position battle. That spot came in the Lesmos for reference. Final cars looking to complete the run, some of them side by side, coming up to the stripe in the drag strip. That will close things out amongst the final drivers in turn. The entries tonight had a wild one, 44 finish on the lead lap here at the Autodroma Nacional Monza. Let's take a look at the unofficial race results tonight as Dominic Olivier picks up the victory after a disastrous round 1. Karl Modov in second, Elliott White comes away with the podium in third. Diego Morales, Daniel Krasowski, Pat Palchad, along with Jeremy Gonzalez, James Walker, Andreas Espinoza, Connor Wagner, the top 10. All pro drivers in the top 10 this week, with Floyd Kerr and Saul Cortez also getting the top 12 for that streak. 13th went to Alex Caruso, the first M-Class driver, by a sizable margin. Martin Chris comes up to 14th. Jennifer McDonald ran mid-pack most of the race, quietly went to 15th. Ethan Wazowski was at one point the top 10, dropped back to 16th after a mistake in the end. Nick McLaughlin finishes 17th, Blake Seedy second in AM, 18th overall. Ryan Puchtel and Thomas Dunn, the top 20 overall. Nicholas Larson, 21st. Nathan Deering, as mentioned, did get the spot for third in AM. Then is Vicente Sepulveda with Joshua Spears and Gary Brown, the top 25. Chase Brown, Darren Rutherford, along with Cedric Neepbau. Months, the top AM drivers. Matthew Thunhorst, 29th, Ted Lowendick, all the way to 30th after his spin. A bunch of AM drivers line up afterwards. Turner Schroll out of the estimated points, 31st tonight. Quentin finishing 32nd. Nikos Stavridakis with Jerome Betherome with Christopher Rines. Jeff Carroll in 36th. Sean Carmody and David Badanka in 38th. Matt Hilton, Miguel Angel Fonseca in 40th. 41st, Brett Thurman, Romain Foe with David Lehman, Sean McGinnis, once the final drivers in the lead lap. One lap down tonight, Giambattista Gilsetti with Noah Anderson, Matthew Mulbauer, Zach Kerr DQ'd after tonight's run. In the DNFs, Raymond Yip, Mark Stevenson 9 laps down from the pole for AM class. John Berry, 51st. Sean Dickinson, Greg Conaway, Matthew Dennis, along with Danny LaFleur, David Morse, William Brennan, John Antonio, and from 2nd to 59th, Boris Angel Ovando tonight. As we look top to bottom at the running order tonight, plenty of drivers eager to discuss things with us. Let's start things off with your pro winner. Dominic Olivier comes away with a victory after what's been a nightmarish week for you in multiple series. You break through tonight with a win here at Monza.
Yeah, it's a good win. It was a good win. This one after my poor performance last week. Last week was a little bit of more inebriated and showed up late for qualifying and get a lap in and had a nightmare of a race. So happy to just one in the bag.
Very quickly, talk us through the efforts to close up this gap, to be able to have the shot at Carl.
Carl was I was expecting the Audi to be that quick. I knew the Ferrari definitely, had a little bit of an edge here at this track, and when they out qualified me, I was a little bit shocked, but it was game on at that point. Had a bit of a messy start, and was drafting off my teammate trying to save fuel, and he was dropping back a little bit too much, so I had to go on the hunt. And yeah, it was tough. That was tough. Lap after lap, I had to try and make no mistakes. Carl didn't make any mistakes, and I just had to keep closing him down inch by inch. Once I got there, it was a little bit easier. Could manage it a little bit more. And yeah, surprisingly, managed to get a gap him in the pits and kept it going from. Happy about that.
Well, thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on the overall victory tonight. By the way, good news. The internet issues that you're starting to have did not happen during the race. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Dominic Olivier finishing in the overall race win tonight. AM class, meanwhile, for a second straight week, went to Alex Caruso. Not a top 10 overall, but it's still top in AM with you.
Hey Alex, welcome to the commentary booth. Good to have you here. Winner in AM on this occasion. Not quite the heights of last week. With your performance, of course, but still a very good one. Just tell us a little bit about, first of all, qualifying and the opening moments of that race as you picked your way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So qualifying was a little tough. I was lucky to set a pretty good lap on my first hot lap out there, so that gave me a good position for the race, and I was able to keep it clean and keep out of trouble for the most part. Up until a little bit of net code around lap 9 or 10 or so with Gonzalo Cortez there, but fun race all around.
Certainly was. And do you race this a little bit differently now in terms of the GT3 series, because we score points, at least in the AM category now, you score points from the same system as the pros now, so you can gain a lot of points in one race, but you can also lose a lot of points in one race as well. How are you approaching that kind of new dynamic we've got this season?
I've really only got one speed, and that's full speed ahead. I'm going at it as hard as I can every single race, and not really caring who I'm racing against. Just want those positions and those points.
Well, that is the best way to do it, to be fair. I can't blame you at all. Alex, congratulations on AM victory here tonight at Monza. Thanks very much for coming to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all.
Thanks very much. Alex Caruso, winner in AM here at Monza.
Good run for him. A good run for Karl Modolf, who started off by breaking away by 2 seconds, led all the way to about the pit stops. 9 of the 23 laps went his way. Carl, what happened, though, as that gap went from 2 seconds to none in about 6 laps?
Hey guys, man, yeah, that was a tough race. The Ferrari was super tough all week. It was just really a monster in the mid-range, and I knew it was going to be tough to beat anyone in the Ferrari, and I settled in, and I think the track conditions changed quite a bit from practice. There's a lot more grip in the low speeds, and you kind of pay a huge price if you overdrive the entry, and I just thought if I could keep the gap up beyond having him in the draft that I might be able to hold him off, but so I was kind of driving a little bit cautiously, a little bit nervous. He kind of ran me down, and then I was just going to try and settle in, but I don't know exactly what to do with the fuel. I think I maybe underfueled the car on accident. I kind of made a rookie mistake because it seemed like I pitted earlier than anyone else, and that kind of did me in because I caught some traffic on the outlap, and Dominic was able to get a few second lead there at the stop. So bummer the way it ended. I thought after the start I was going to be able to take the win tonight, but still super happy with the second place after last week. So yeah, looking forward to the rest of the championship.
Of course, one of the questions, too, is what's your viewpoint on what happened between you and Danny Krzelski?
Yeah, Yeah, it was tough. You were racing hard. I defended the inside. Once you block to the inside, to me, you kind of have to hold your line. So I wasn't going to let him creep over on me. It looked like he tried to creep over in the braking. We made contact. I haven't seen it from a bunch of different angles, so I'm not exactly positive. But it seemed like he just kind of came over me a little bit in the braking there. So yeah, unfortunate to end the race that way. I was looking forward to having a good battle over the last couple laps with him.
Well, holiday break now coming up for the next couple weeks here until we get racing back in 2023. How will you be spending your holidays?
Recovering, just hanging out with family, getting ready for the new year. Probably do a little bit of racing, feed the addiction, and hopefully come back strong. Hopefully get a top step at the next race.
Well, thank you very much once again for the time. Congrats on second overall tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to PRL and RaceSpot for the broadcast. Thanks to Delta Sport and Race Factory. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Karl Modov coming away with second overall tonight. Meanwhile, Blake Ziti has baked a ziti. He's in second in AM. He's with Ewan.
Blake, welcome to the booth as well. Good to have you here. Second place in the AM category here tonight, then 18th overall as well. Tell us a little bit about that race. Are you pleased with the way that's ended out?
Yeah, I can't complain too much. I mean, first few laps was absolute chaos as always. Trying to sort out the few chicanes. But once that kind of calmed down and it settled in a little bit, it was fun, man. It's cool to see and have these guys racing so clean. You could pretty much trust every opponent out there. So it was a lot of fun today. Happy to be here.
Yeah, certainly. In the AM category, of course. And just how hard is it to score points in this new AM category now with the way that the point system works in that everybody scores points from the very same position? Just what's that like? What is that like, as an AM driver?
Well, I just figured that out last week after looking at the points, and it was a little frustrating to say the least because I really tried hard not to get a DNF this year, and it was like I wasn't even here. But hey, that's what it is, and I'm on the podium this week. But Alex gave us a spanking last week, so it doesn't really help us. But it's cool because now I can make up points other ways. If other guys have bad races, it's going to make it interesting at the end, and I'm curious to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I am as well. Look forward to seeing you again, of course, in the coming weeks, Blake. But for now, enjoy the Christmas break, of course, and congratulations on second place in AM.
Great, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Second place in AM for Blake Ziti here today at Monza.
Good run for him. Good run for Elliott White. Elliott, you're working with your teammates at one point after things broke up early. What happened, though, as you ended up getting left adrift?
Yeah, I mean, I did a ton of setup tweaking over the last couple of days to try to find some speed in the Audi, and ultimately, I couldn't find what I needed. I definitely didn't find what Karl had. He was really quick, but I knew I needed to stick with Dom. That was pretty much my only choice, but it didn't really work out in the end.
How difficult again is the Audi to race this track like Monza compared to, say, what we've seen with the Red Bull Ring?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because I haven't driven it in a long time, but since the updates to the GT3, it seems like it just doesn't have the straight line speed that the Ferrari has at Monza. But at the Red Bull Ring, it felt like it cornered really well. It felt a little bit more technical. Monza I'm also just not very good at, so that's also could just be a bit of my downfall as well.
After the holiday break, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps at the Grand Prix pits, and that's where the distinction of the VRS versus IMSA race distances will come into play. The third 40-minute race of the season. Thoughts on Spa?
I enjoy Spa, but it's another one I don't feel like I'm all that great at, and I don't know how the Audi will be. I think it will be a bit better than it was here at Monza. At least I hope so. But I think the Ferrari could probably be pretty decent there as well. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, congratulations on the run, Elliott. Top 3 in the Pro class.
Thank you, guys.
Elliott White, third overall as well tonight. Nathan Deering had to fight hard for third in AM class. He's with you on his perspective.
Certainly is. Nathan, welcome to the booth finally as well. Third in AM, heading a 7-car train across the line, which is pretty crazy. We were watching some of it as well. Just what is that kind of pack racing at Monza actually like to be involved in?
It's nerve-wracking. Yeah, you don't want to run into the guy in front of you. You don't want the guy behind you to run into you as well. So just trying to keep it clean, trying to, be easy on the brakes. Those last few laps, I was shaking pretty hard. I was really nervous. I didn't want to run into the guy in front of me. Clearly there at the end, there's a little bit of contact with a few of us. So I'm just glad we made it home safe. Don't know how I made it out of there with only a 9X. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, these things happen. It's this kind of racing, I suppose, at Monza. This Lamborghini, of course, we've spoken a lot about the Ferrari and a little bit about the Audi as well in terms of how strong they are at Monza. But what was the Lamborghini like around here?
It wasn't bad. I was actually caught up in traffic a lot of the race. I was hoping to work together with a few of the guys that I was with. But yeah, just the traffic just didn't really help me. And I kind of wish I pit early. Save me some time. There's a few guys who pit early and they got ahead of me. But the Lamborghini was strong. I was really impressed. I was worried about the Ferrari in the straight line, along with the Porsche, but the Lamborghini held its ground, and I was pretty happy with it. So
it was good to see, and it will be good to see you again, of course, in a couple of weeks after the Christmas break for the next round. Nathan, congratulations on third place here in AM here today at Monza, and thanks very much for coming to join us.
Yep, thank you guys.
Thanks so much. Nathan Deering, third place in AM here today.
I'd like to thank all the drivers for taking time to speak with us during post-race coverage here tonight on RaceSpot. An eventful one here at Monza, to say the very least. But now that brings us into the holiday break, Ewan. 2023 means chances to try and reset and recharge before they head to a spa day.
Well, absolutely. It might not be quite that relaxing for some, though. A couple of weeks away yet, but be very much looking forward to having the GT3 Fixed Series, GT3 Sprint Series back in the Precision Racing League after the new year as well. I think everybody's going to be quite glad for the week off, really, to say the least. Everyone will be glad to put their feet up a little bit, but they'll be coming back refreshed again into the new year, and 8 more chances, as you mentioned, to really make an impression on this season, on this championship. That's when the real stuff is going to happen. I mean, the form guide, especially from the Fixed Series, the form guide from those first 2 races is almost useless because it's been 2 unpredictable races. So it's going to be very interesting to see now how it develops as this season gets a little bit older.
Once again, that's January the 3rd at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to tune in on RaceSpot and VCO. But on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in for tonight's action from iRacing's virtual Autodroma Nacional Monza. From broadcast partner tonight, Ewan O'Leary, for our producer Hugo Weiss, Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations to our race winners on their success tonight from Italy. Hope to see you once more in 2023.